Hi, I'm Ted Wolf, presented by Guidewise. Welcome to the Implementors podcast, where we connect you to the stories and insights of people who have mastered implementation. Why? Because ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. Join us as we uncover the secrets of successful implementation so you can conquer your implementation struggles. Welcome to the Implementors podcast presented by Guidewise, where we focus on the topic of implementation because ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. Today on the Implementors podcast, we're joined by a true innovator in AI-driven learning and workforce transformation, Juliette Denny. Juliette's the founder of Iridescent Technology, the company behind Zavmo AI. And Julie is known for challenging outdated training models and pushing the boundaries of what AI can do to enhance workforce intelligence. Welcome, Juliette.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Ted.
Juliette, I couldn't help but seeing that in numerous areas when I was doing my homework, the constant thing came up about challenging. And it says on your LinkedIn company profile that the traditional training isn't cutting it anymore. Could you explain what you might mean by that?
Yes, Ted. Let's just go straight for the jugular. So I am very much of the opinion, and I'm sure most people are, that people are born curious, and they have a real kind of interest to improve their lives and to learn new things. In fact, a lot of people say that the success to aging is you keep young through learning new things, right? And I think one of the problems is I am dyslexic, and I did not have a good time at school. I ended up being chucked out and all of those kind of things that happens when you're maybe on the neurodiversity spectrum like I was. And I think I was locked out of education. And so I think there is a big role for education that is done based on the individual's needs rather than what I term as a kind of one-to-many versus one-to-one. And so I think we're now, with the arrival of AI, on a precipice where we can move from a one-to-many learning, training, development model, right, to a one-on-one individual model. And that's why I'm so excited about the future.
So you believe in personalized training and education?
That's exactly what I believe. I believe if we are going to unleash everybody's inner superhero, because I do believe there is awesome within each and every one of us, what we need to be inspired by, an agent that really does kind of understand our hopes, our dreams, what makes us curious, what we're interested in, rather than just a one size fits all. Because what I'm interested in may not be what you're interested in, and therefore, how are we going to apply that information to make the world a better place?
Okay. And are you doing a lot of business or different types of assignments with businesses, or is this more of a public education, private education type of focus?
We're going bold with this. We're going bold. We basically just want to change the world. So we thought where we'd start is large corporates. So we're currently rolling out a pilot with Centrica, which is British Gas. So they have about 160,000, probably quite a small company compared to your size companies in the US. But anyway, nevertheless, we think it's quite a large company in the UK. And so what we're doing is personalized learning with them. They have been really bold and followed us into, this whole kind of new world of personalized learning. So what we're doing is we are basically matching the job descriptions to a set of national standards, which creates a personalized training needs assessment based on knowledge and behavior. And then from that maps to every single vocational and academic qualification that is accredited in the UK. So we have two big bodies in the UK. One is national standards and the other is Ofqual. And so what we are then able to do is offer everybody a completely uniquely tailored learning journey, from the training needs analysis to how that information will be applied to their job, benchmark them against national standards, and then basically deliver customized learning in line with their neurodiversity, their growth goals, their interests, their hobbies, in a manner that they want it to be. So it could be case studies, it could be Socratic dialogue, it could be conversation, it could be coaching. So it's basically conversational learning.
Was this possible before the advent of AI?
No.
So what was the, I'll say, light bulb moment when you put the two together, personalized education and AI, and you said, this is it, I got my eureka moment?
So you'll probably notice I'm not a spring chicken. So I've been in the I've been in the learning technologies world for about 25 years and loved every second of it. I mean, I have to say, because when we first got into the market, we realized that most of the applications that were being sold to large companies were very compliance based. And we were like, no, people that are working for L'Oreal and HP and Cisco and Apple, they deserve to have something a lot better than compliance kind of focused platforms. And so we created, a company that's still running now, Growth Engineering, headed by a fantastic team. They service those clients, but it's a gamified social learning platform, which basically allows, big brands that want to make learning fun for their learners to basically deliver awesome content and awesome kind of gamified learning experiences that are much more like a business consumer type Duolingo type platform than a normal compliance platform. So that basically I left that company about 15 months ago when I was like, right, I've really got an idea here. I know we can take learning to the next level. And whilst gamification and social learning is great, I do believe the breakthrough for people's development, and especially when we start looking at long-term unemployed, major skills gaps, digital skills gaps, things that people just don't know how to apply, because it's not about knowing this stuff, it's about applying it in your role that is going to shift these companies forward. And so that's really what radically personalized learning can do. It says, you in this job wanting to get to that job, how are we going to upskill you and get you to apply your new knowledge in your role? So that's really what I'm interested in.
Is there a secret sauce to what you're doing? Because a lot of people will go through education, it's academic, so to speak. It's all ideas, and they never get to implement it. They never get to work it and use it. How do you get them the secret sauce to actually go through, perform what needs to be done, prove they can do it, but get it implemented into their everyday use and mindset, if I can use that term?
Yes, I think I'm a bit old-fashioned in that regard. I think if you can't sell it, then basically it's a hobby. It's not really a thing, is it? Mm-hmm. So I'm much more of the find a problem, go to somebody who has got that problem, and get them to pay you for solving it. So that's exactly what I did with Centrica. Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure you've got this problem, and it's probably about a £500 million problem, isn't it? And they were like, yeah, it is. I was like, well, how about we work together on a pilot, and then we can go to the government, which is what I'm working on now. So going back to your original question, is this for the government or is this for corporates? So I wanted corporates to prove the concept out, show how much money they'd saved, and how better learning outcomes were delivered. And then now I want to, so the UK have just published their new AI strategy, literally came out 2 weeks ago. So so I'm hoping to basically, I'm speaking at a conference for the central government on Thursday, and I'm hoping to basically say, okay, we're here, hello, let the party begin. That's my hope.
I'm sure you'll hit it out of the park. I have complete confidence in you.
We hope so, yeah.
There's a lot of different AI models and a lot of different talk that people are discussing right now. Your particular AI is Zavmo AI. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Zavmo AI really stems from a kind of deep feeling that everyone deserves to have the best education. I'm very dyslexic myself. My sons have got ADHD and dyslexia. They both work in the business. So Cosmo is our head of technology, and Zavi, who's my youngest, also works in the business doing sales and marketing. And there's a feeling with Zavmo that what we want to do is we want to kind of emancipate the superhero within us all. And so the feeling and the personality of Zavmo is not a piece of tech, and it's not sort of a cold AI. Zavmo's personality is very much, it's quite humorous. We use a lot of emojis. We high five. We try and keep you as engaged and as delighted as possible. So Zavmo is full of praise. Zavmo is full of, and one could say, well, maybe that's not perfect for a corporate setting, but I can assure you, going through the pilot for Centrica, they've really enjoyed that. They've really enjoyed being spoken to somebody who is excited and encouraging, throughout that journey. So basically, Zavmo is an agentic application. So there's about 46 different agents running in the back doing different things, everything from understanding neurodiversity to understanding the display of the UI to make sure it's delivered in line with your neurodiversity, creating the training needs analysis, with regards to your behavior, your attitude, your knowledge to a certain thing. So it's a fairly complicated piece of kit in terms of all the different agents and how that results in a personalized learning experience. But at core, really, it's the personality of Zavmo, which is this: come on, guys, tell me about where you want to get to in your career. Tell me about what your interests are, your passions, your hobbies, and let me turn learning into something that's really going to inspire you to learn and develop.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So what are some of the biggest lessons you're learning through Zavmo? What are you learning about the people that are using it?
I think what's really funny is that people haven't had a learning experience like this. So it's they're typing away. So you can speak to Zavmo, and Zavmo can speak to you, but you can also type to Zavmo. So if you're in a corporate setting, you might want to be typing because you might not want to have earphones on. And what tends to happen is they do things like what? That's amazing. This is exactly my job. This is exactly how. So once it starts kind of creating educational experiences based on role play. So let's say you're learning about, I don't know, presentations, and you might do a role play with Zavmo, or let's say you're learning about I don't know, ethics and compliance in a not-for-profit. It's fascinating the way it basically creates these scenarios that are absolutely the kind of thing that you would interface with in your role. And I think there's a certain amount of surprise in that, because people are so used to having, let's learn about compliance in a generic setting, not in the setting that makes sense for you, and also not at your level. So remember, by this time, so with Zavmo, there's a 4D process. So we go through first of all, looking at your training needs analysis. So this is the first D is all about
Discovery.
Discovering your what you're interested in. Then it's about discussion, and discussion is all about habit forming, because we don't want you to feel like it's being done to you. We want you to agree, these are my hobbies, these are my interests, this is my. Then we go on to delivery. So delivery in line with how you want that delivery to feel like. So do you want it to be a mentoring conversation, Socratic dialogue, or whatever it might be? And then finally, it's the learning outcome. So have you met the learning outcomes that the qualification needs you to meet? But have you done that in a way that is applied to your role? So we're very much looking higher up Bloom's taxonomy, looking at how we get learning to actually come alive. And so for that, we don't want you just to remember and recall. We want you to evaluate and build on that knowledge, so that you can make that learning come alive.
Is Zavmo then designed more for the creative side of a job, or if I'm an accountant, a bookkeeper, Would that be a topic or a subject that I would learn through your particular offering?
Yeah, so what's really interesting about Zavmo, so when we were doing the pilot for Centrica, Centrica said to us, what kind of roles do you want? And we said, well, you can give us any role. You can give us, gas service engineer, you can give us, customer service, you can give us forensic accountants, you can give us, cyber crime, you can give us whatever. Well, you would not believe the jobs they came back with. I had no idea these jobs even existed. So, we've got people doing financial crime, we've got people doing customer service, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as there are professional or academic qualifications. And in most fields in the UK, obviously you have professional and academic qualifications.
Yeah.
As long as we can ingest those and put those into the data lake, then we can basically teach any subject.
And is this more for learning learning the subject matter, or is it for continuing education type of credits that some positions and professional positions require?
So it can be for both. But the real reason why you would, I think, choose to utilize Zavmo is firstly for understanding your workforce, what your workforce looks like, or what skills your workforce has got, what skills gaps your workforce has got, and then basically ensuring that when you're plugging those gaps, you are plugging them in line with training that can be directly applied into the job. So let me give you an example. People are talking a lot about, AI training at the moment. Now, if you are an entry level person coming into an organization, you're learning about AI, quite often you will get the same course as your department manager or your regional manager or whoever it might be. But that is not fit for purpose. What is fit for purpose is that if somebody who's joining the company, they need to know about how to use AI, AI tools in their everyday work, right? If you are in a position where you run budgets and you're a department manager or whatever, you need to basically be looking at standard operating procedures. You need to be looking at how AI can make your business more efficient, more effective. You need to be looking at how you judge the data around you so that you can make decisions on whether it's worth basically moving forward with a build or a buy or whatever it might be. So there's different ways and different levels of knowledge that you need depending on the role that you're playing within that organization. And this is what Zavmo can give. So whether you're learning about compliance, whether you're learning about AI, whether you're learning about industry standards, what you're learning about should be fit for your level so that you can go ahead and apply it with confidence.
That's personalization. I certainly think that's tremendous. I applaud that. AI, there's so many things happening so fast. It's such a rapidly changing environment. How do you keep up to date on what you should be including in Zavmo to make sure it's fit for what you need to have done?
So, I mean, there will be people on this call, who listen to this podcast and go, oh, well, Juliette doesn't know anything she's talking about in terms of AI. But in terms of the models we use, they are perfectly fit for purpose for what we need. Okay. We don't need ever increasing bright models. Okay. What we need is better, kind of not better, but we need more agents that understand human engagement. So, what differentiates, my career as a learning technologist is not my deep understanding of tech. It's my deep understanding of engagement and how people learn.
Right.
So in order to make Zavmo better, we need better understanding of what it means for humans to learn. And so that is the kind of driving force behind my energy in the company. So we don't necessarily need better models. The other thing that you could say is that in the data lake, so currently we have national standards, we have, every qualification that the UK government's ever approved. We can have other information in that data lake, which is company or government specific. So if there is a specific thing that the government is trying to do, or a specific thing that a corporation is trying to do, let's say industry standards or regulations, if you're all of that can be put into the data lake. So the more high quality information you can customize and put in that data lake, the more relevant we can make the case studies and the learning experience for the learners. So that's really where that extra sort of 1% to perfection comes, not necessarily from the large AI models.
Yeah. And when it comes to AI, a lot of people fear it. It's going to take my job. We have no idea what it's going to change, things like that. How do you address that when it comes to AI working with a human, emotional person, live, interacting? Where do you see that going, that intersection?
I mean, I think it's a question that I think about a lot, and I don't know the answer. All I do know is when I see people interacting with Zavmo, because Zavmo is quite childlike and very, very enthusiastic and very curious about you and what you want to do. Zavmo is very focused on who he's trying to help, who he or she is trying to help, right?
Mhm.
So I think if we can make AI more human-like, then basically it allows humans to get the best out of AI. So it's a kind of weird oxymoron in some ways. I think we should anthropomorphize AI in
Mhm.
order to make it better, to make it more agreeable for humans to use. And I
Mhm.
think it's right to be cautious, but by the same token, I do think that we should move forward with positivity and joy, because I think if we do that, then that's what we'll get back from AI.
Mhm. I'm interested to see what your thoughts are in response to this question. What's the biggest mistake that companies make when they try to optimize their workforce via AI?
Now, that is a good question. I mean, I would say that people are really, really confused, so they don't want short-term tools. I would say that what they're looking for is like a wholesale revolution, rather than, because what they're seeing is a market that's moving incredibly fast, and they're like, unless this solves a big, big problem, okay? So unless it is super bold and super visionary, I don't really want to be in a situation where I'm moving from one AI authoring tool to another AI authoring tool. It's a problem, but really you're not biting off anything that is seismically going to move my business forward. And so I think we're in that phase where we need to be really bold with the solutions we're coming up with, and we don't get that from AI. What we get that from is understanding the problems in our verticals.
Hmm. Hmm. So if I'm a business owner, I'm hearing about AI, I'm hearing about my workforce. There's a difference between what my expectations of what they're going to deliver are and what the real results are. I know part of it's education. I don't know how to go about doing it. What would you recommend I do? How should I think? What do I need to prepare in order to bring you in and be really effective with my workforce?
I mean, I think the first place to start is, you know, I think there are lots of people that are wedded to their learning management system and their learning experience platform, and they've got a library of 7,000 e-learning units, and they've got a subscription that's costing them a fortune to LinkedIn Learning. And that's just the way they've done it around here. And it's taken our board 15 years to basically sign off a learning management system. And we've invested millions into our online academy and, so forth and so forth. But I think, hand on heart, a lot of people who work in L&D are like, not sure it's really moved the dial, has it? I mean, learning and development aren't sitting at the top table. They're not in the strategy meetings talking about how we're going to implement. They're just not, right? What happens is that, people come to L&D and go, hey, I think I need a training course in this area. It's not driving the business forward. So I think if you are the type of, learning and development leader that knows that the future is is very dynamic at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of change in every single market because of
Mhm.
AI and automation. Then I think you're kind of ready to see what something like Zabmo can do.
Mhm.
But it's not going to be for everybody. But the reality is that it is the future. So it's kind of like sticking your finger in the dike. I mean, you may not choose to do it with Zavmo, but eventually everybody will have a personalized learning tutor. Why? Because everybody wants it. It's like a cute teddy bear. It's great. Basically it's like, this fun thing that sits on your shoulder and is constantly pushing you forward to, make your life more interesting. So it will happen. It's just a question of where you are compared to your competitors. But I think it's fair to say that I speak to a lot of global leaders in L&D functions, and they just don't have any idea that this is coming.
I would say that probably the biggest differentiator between what you're offering and the typical learning management system or even LinkedIn is probably the personalization that you offer to it and the personality that you offer to it. So it becomes sticky and things like that. So people get involved. They're enjoying themselves. They're actually learning things. They're applying them. They're upgrading their skill set. Everybody's feeling good. What do you do to protect their privacy of data?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, basically for corporate, so in a learning management system context, obviously anything that learner does online resides with the organization that has purchased the learning management system. And it's the same with Zavmo. So if we are if we basically are putting Zavmo into, a government organization, or it's owned by the person that licensed Zavmo. So each specific instance is dedicated to that organization, or that organization. So we don't allow data to go from one organization to another. It's not a common pool. It's not a common data lake. So yeah.
Okay. In your experience using your tools within the business organization, what kind of surprises have you seen? What kind of wow, that's a light bulb, that's something new, or that's something that I haven't seen before, then all of a sudden it's a real nice success story of somebody who's really made some breakthroughs, learning, things like that?
I think the resource planning thing has been the most interesting. So the data analytics that you can get out the back, because if you think about the structure of data in a sort of traditional SaaS platform, it's very kind of linear. It's kind of XY axis. And so if you're going to run a report, you typically have a set of filters and the report comes out the other end. And then if you want that data to be analyzed, you have to go to a data analyst. The wonderful thing about like a vector database, which is the type of data storage that we use with Zavmo, is that the data can be diced and sliced in any way, and how you report on it is a conversational interface. So our conversational reporting interface is called Jan, after my mother, who sadly passed away, but she was literally the cleverest woman I've ever met in my life. So it's called the Jan reporting suite. And what you do is you simply just, like you do any AI, you just ask Jan a question. And then what Jan will come up with is the report. So this is your written report and this is your graph. So I think that has been probably the most really impactful on our organizations, because although learners have this really incredible kind of learning experience where they're like, why, how does it know that about my job? How does it know that I've got to do that? How does it, and then the role plays or the case studies are absolutely in line with their job. It mentions their boss, it's all really like, so the learners are like, wow, this is amazing. But in terms of the data analytics, you can ask it questions like, this particular, department has said that it wants to do this particular project. Would it be better to buy or build? You can ask Jan things like that. So you can ask all sorts of really interesting information that basically builds business intelligence, off the back of it.
And when you look down the road, what do you think the role of educators will be in the future?
Well, I mean, I think if we although I had, a tough time in education, I would not be where I am without, certain mentors and teachers that basically guided me through. So I think it is not about, these teachers that are in a room with a classroom of 40 kids basically doing glorified childcare. It is about educators doing what they were born to do, and which is educate. So I don't think that personalized AI tutors will take over teachers' jobs. I mean, that that would just never happen. What I think we should be in a position to do is we should be in a position to offer AI tutors to every child to support what they are learning in the classroom.
And
So I
what they're
don't
interested
think,
in.
yeah, I really do not think that the role of the teacher, hopefully they will get more quality time. Can you imagine going into a classroom where every single time you went into a classroom, you were able to engage in the types of learning experiences that worked for you? And I think we can do that. The teacher will know more about you. The teacher will understand, maybe where you're struggling. The teacher, all of these insights will allow teachers to really enjoy their roles and really enjoy teaching, because they'll be able to, fit the needs of their students in a way that currently they can't.
Mm-hmm. Do you find any hesitancy on individuals' part to use the AI tool, the technology, to begin learning and teaching themselves?
I think there is a bit of hesitancy if you are very neurodiverse. So, for example, my son is very dyslexic. I mean, I'm dyslexic. When I'm talking to Claude or whatever AI I'm using, I'm sure the AI most of the time is like, "What are you talking about, Juliette?" But actually, that is one of the wonderful things, that because every moment that you're with Zavmo is celebration, it's happy, it's, well done, that's fantastic, let's learn more about, let's say you jump onto Zavmo and you want to learn about physics, but you're interested in, surfing and motorbikes. It's that feeling that even though you might not have a lot of confidence when you first go on, because you're learning about things that you love and you're learning about physics and you're being constantly, praised by, the new things that you're learning, there's that really lovely sort of positive feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what do you think will happen after the individual completes the coursework that you have set out for them in organizations? How do they continue if they want to on their own, that they really like the whole system, but now they want to get some new things off and over and above what you provided to the organization, the business?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. So the way Zavmo works is that Zavmo, you can start new conversations to, open up other avenues really easily. So typically what will happen is, for example, in the central Copilot, the first thing that we were looking at is gap analysis from job descriptions to training to national standards to off-call, right? So that is obviously like a big learning pathway. The next learning pathway that the company wanted to look at was future skills. So when we look at future skills and digital skills, how does that work within your role? Then there could be other learning pathways, which are things like, I'm currently working in customer service, but I really would like to do Reiki healing for dogs. Fine. You can basically just, choose to do that in your own time. So when you open up Zavmo, you've got a dashboard. You can see the 4D process there, and you can see all of your learning pathways and how you're moving forward. And then, there's a sort of gamified leaderboard where you can see, where you are with regards to other people in your department, how many hours you've been, learning, how many qualifications you've got, and lots of emojis and stuff like that to make the experience fun and enjoyable.
Okay. So would you say then the key to getting it implemented, people using it, the engagement, is really the personality and the fun behind learning and doing it, but learning something that you want to learn, so making it relevant for them? Am I accurate in that?
Yeah, I think you hit on two really important things there. First of all, are we giving people the opportunity to learn in a way they want to learn? Okay, so for me, I like to learn through practical case studies. So if I'm learning something new, so let's say I'm learning about data lakes and hyperdimensional spaces, I want to know that information because I'm going to be talking to senior leaders, possibly technology departments, about data analytics. So I want that learning to be contextualized to exactly the people who I'm going to be, interfacing with. So I think that's kind of the first point. And the second point is that learning for most people is something that if it is not directly relevant, it needs to be a kind of a kind of delight and surprise kind of feeling, right? So you do need encouragement to go from your day job to learning. And so I think the relationship between Zavmo and the learner does require a high level of personality. Would be one thing I've learned on the pilot, that the personality of the AI is an important factor in getting people to be engaged.
Mm-hmm. So you like to challenge things. I think you use the word bold quite often in our conversation. Do you have a bold prediction as far as where education is going to go and what it's going to be like in the future?
Yes. So my prediction is personalization will be ubiquitous within 10 years. So I think within 10 years, everybody will have their own AI tutor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think the benefits of that will be, untold in terms of the creativity and the entrepreneurialism and the innovation that will come out of that. I think it will be the biggest single thing that AI delivers to humanity. This massive upskilling of anywhere, no matter what education level you are, no matter where you are in society, it will be a truly kind of a moment of equality for all of humanity, because it will drive down the cost of education and it will allow social mobility in a way that we just haven't been able to get that. Because, if you have, a degree is a degree is a degree is a degree, you can say, yes, I went to Harvard, but at the end of the day, the same, you're still getting the same education. And I think that is one thing that AI, through using accredited qualifications, which are there, everybody can be educated to the same standard for, not a lot of money. And I think that will be amazing.
Mm-hmm. So, I know in my life, I didn't grow up with AI. I'm going to assume you did not grow up with AI in your life, but you've worked a lot with it. You're now working with it day in and day out. You're seeing the ins and outs and how it works and all the fascinating things you can do. Have you grown to fear AI because of that experience?
No. I think and again, this might be a bit contentious, but I do believe that AI is one of those things that it's very reflective of the human corpus. So obviously it's trained on human data. So you're going to get out of AI what you put in, ultimately. And obviously we do need to ensure that the right data goes in and the prompts are, trained in a way that are as positive for humanity as possible. But I am not a doomsayer with AI. I think that what it has allowed, us to create in Zavmo, and what it will allow humanity to do, is a massive, exciting, bold and positive adventure. I think it's always worthwhile just kind of saying that if you look at, the human brain and what powers the human brain, it is just nowhere near as energy efficient as energy as heavy as AI is. So when you look at AI, it can do certain things really quickly. So it can do number crunching and it can do certain things that the human brain might take a bit longer. But in terms of creativity, innovation, looking at multiple different problems from different elements and trying to come up with kind of creative solutions, AI doesn't necessarily kind of slightly work that way. It is predicated on large data sets, and those large data sets come from humans. So I think, yes, we need to be cautious, but at the end of the day, if we believe in what all of humanity has ever written, most of it's pretty good. We enjoy the internet, we enjoy our lives, and so I think there's more reasons to be hopeful than there is to be scared.
Okay. Your organization, Iridescent Technology, how did you come up with a name?
I didn't actually. Well, it's funny. So it was two things. First of all, I asked both my boys for names for the new company. And Cosmo's favorite color is iridescent. Now, obviously, you can question whether iridescent is actually is a color. And then I was starting a business in Andorra, where I live up in the mountains. And in order to start a company in Andorra, you have to offer the Andorran government 3 names, and they select the business name from the 3 that you give. And so the Andorran government actually selected Iridescent Technology. So that's why it could have been called, I can't even remember the other 2 on the list, but that's the origin story.
Okay. So let me ask you, Juliette, what does the future look like for you?
Well, I think there's something so wonderful about getting a bit old because, I think you're just slightly more chilled out. So I've spent the last sort of 30 years, in tech, and I find it so funny to think about, when I first entered the workforce, we were saying that AI wasn't invented, even the internet wasn't invented. I mean, we're back in the day here. And so, now when I sort of look at my career and hopefully the things that I am going to be involved with, in the next sort of 30, 40 years of my life, I'd like to think that, it was, as well as making corporate education better and optimizing it, I think I really would like to see if I could do more in the public sector, which I've never really done before. Because I do think that no child should be locked out of a really successful economic future. And I do believe that social mobility is the secret to peace, to world peace. I don't think conflict is a good idea. And I think the way that, we ensure that the world, does become a better place for future generations is through education, discussion, and ensuring that nobody gets left behind.
Well, Juliette, I think you're going to be very successful in that endeavor. Enjoyed our conversation extremely, an awful lot today. Very, very interesting. And I think you're onto something. If somebody wants to talk to you and contact you, what's the best way to do that?
I absolutely love meeting new people. So please do reach out on LinkedIn. I'm also on TikTok. Not very good. No makeup videos on there. It's all kind of neuroscience, things like that. But yeah, both TikTok and LinkedIn are my mediums. And I would absolutely love to hear from any people that are curious about this intersection. So yeah, thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you for your time. It was a great conversation. Love to talk to you again in the future.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate it.
Hi, Ted Wolf here. I want to thank you for joining us for this Implementors video. The Implementors podcast is presented by Guidewise, where we, along with our vetted member community, recognize that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. To learn more about getting things done with Guidewise, please visit us at guidewise.io. And to conquer your implementation struggles, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Happy implementing.